is this music coming from? Okay, there we go.
Somebody go ping the absolute living shit out of Vienna right now.
All right, lads, we're in. Let's fucking get it. Single fathers raise children better than single mothers. I've said that for a while,
That's
bro.
fine. I'm still gonna wait until 5 because that's when I set the time as.
Especially with how downhill the series became. I hate that they quote the. Are you talking about the movies? The movies were goated. Every one of the Matrix movies were goated. I don't care what anyone says. Not gonna lie to you. All men are misogynists. Nate, shut the fuck up. Oh, we're in here, lads. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. I'm going to have fun with this one. No, I'm not. I lied. I'm not gonna have fun at all. A women. Think about that sentence, Faith. Think about that. Think about that shit. Think about what you just typed.
I think she's gonna miss it. She's gonna be so upset.
I love how nearly every so many people in here are actually females. It's actually kind of funny. And then now one thing I've noticed, chat, is with Resurrection, I rock with all of them. I love all of them. I think the first one was the best. I think the second best one is the third one. I think it's 1, 3, 2 in that order, personally. Capone, I'll give you if you Resurrection. Wait, no, Resurrection's the fourth one. I'm sorry. Wait. Not counting the fourth one, I have not seen the fourth one. Okay? Not counting the fourth one, I haven't seen it. Have not seen the fourth one. Only the first 3. Haven't watched the fourth one yet. I don't have an opinion on that one. I don't type women often. I don't either. I type females. So fourth one mid, I imagine so. They shouldn't have made a fourth one. I don't care.
I don't know. That's like a majority of the people who hit the notification for it. We could probably go ahead and
now,
start.
One thing I've noticed, chat, is the dudes who don't like my content, they always look like soy boy cucks. What was that?
Yeah, majority of the people who hit the notification for it are already in here, so we could go ahead and start.
Alrighty. Nice to speak to you, Miss Abbs. Abby?
Yeah, it's Abby.
Abby, nice to speak to you, Miss Abby. My name's Tony.
Great.
I came across your content because I was streaming one night, and the lovely individual that you know, RC, the right corner, he told me to go and check out the page, and that's how I ended up there. I think I've come across it before because of the huge walls of text that I've seen. I was like, there's no way I'm reading that, but of course he told me to go do it, so I had to go do it on stream, and that was where the YouTube response came from.
You're friends with Right Corner?
Yes. Right Corner's content is actually it's not much of a secret, I imagine, because he doesn't stop bringing it up, but his content was actually inspired by me. He saw one of my posts on my page that are pinned. It was the LGBT post, and he said that he loved the way that I went about it, and that was what inspired him to make his content.
Then you're very aware of my debates with Right Corner and how they went, right?
Not at all, actually. Not even gonna lie. I do not keep up with the quote unquote debate side of TikTok. It's actually quite infuriating. Because normally they just always end up in, what is it called, straw manning repeatedly and over. So I don't, and just both sides ignoring either party's points, and I just don't got time for it. So I never paid attention to it much. He just said go check out the page.
How convenient he left out the part of us debating.
No, he didn't leave it out because it was convenient. He left it out because he knows that I don't care.
I'm sure. But yeah, what was your first issue with one of my videos?
Other than the massive walls of text, I'm not gonna lie to you. Other than those,
is that supposed to be like bad? Like, I don't see what's wrong with like long walls of text. I mean, I treat it like a blog, honestly.
Well, one thing I can say for certain is the layout of it, because let's say like your video is like what, let's say a video is 8 seconds, right? The audio is gonna keep playing over and over, and I don't want to hear the audio over and over, so I have to pause it so I don't hear the audio. And
oh my god, you're so inconvenienced to just tap on this.
And the play button is in the middle of some of the text, so that's a layout
and it's
issue
transparent.
That's what
Tony, the like pause button, it's transparent. You can read.
Not on all of the videos. On some of the videos.
Do you watch it on a computer?
No. Well, some of them I did, yes, actually.
Well, then that would be why.
Well, that's still a layout issue regardless.
It's for a mobile app. I would say the majority of users use it through their phone.
Oh yeah, I'd say 100% of people use it through their phone. I would say that the PC users are weird, but I was on stream, so using it on my phone wouldn't really make sense. But
Hmm.
the walls of text, it's whatever. It's not the fact that I have to. It's just monotonous. You know, like if I were to have a book and instead of like having indentations, it was just one wall of text, it would just get annoying quickly. So that's just a layout issue that I have.
It's more engagement than yours, but sure.
I mean, your account is probably also older than mine, no?
No, I only started getting traction around a few months ago.
Same. I only started posting a few months ago. So
How ironic.
I that's not the definition of irony.
It is pretty ironic that you're criticizing my format when I have a larger platform than you.
It's not. So if someone has a larger platform, then I can't critique them.
They surely can, but it would be ironic.
That's not what irony is.
Are you sure? You had to look up cognitive dissonance. Are you sure you don't want to look up irony?
Well, cognitive dissonance isn't as known as irony is. So
And yet you still don't know what it means.
I do.
My god, okay, what is your first issue? Like, give
Uh,
me your statement.
well, the first issue is mainly with mainly any kind of pages like these. It just always it always seems like these sorts of pages just parrot each other. Like one person said it, so another person says it, so another person says it. But I've never seen any sort of critical or original thought. It's just like, oh,
Does the right
I
not do the
heard
same
this.
thing?
I'm not on the right, so but probably not. No.
Your content would beg to differ.
How is my content conservative?
Yeah, it has a lot of transphobic dog whistles and just straight up transphobia as well. It has a
Okay.
lot of just like stitches of just relatively feminist content and you trying to derail it through very bad statistics that you don't understand.
Bad statistics that I don't understand, like what?
Right, the one that you stitched of that lady talking about how we would need like one police officer if like every man just happened to disappear off the face of the planet, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
based. Um, you cited the statistic about like 70% of what was it called?
Non-reciprocated domestic abuse.
Right, right. But you conveniently left out the part of how, in all of IPV, when we're talking about IPV as a whole, women are a victim of it like 80 something percent of the time.
Yes.
Right.
How did I leave that out? How's that
So
important
I
for me
don't
to
see
say?
how that would make women in danger in a manless world when these statistics are largely based off of heterosexual couples as well.
Lesbian relationships have the highest amount of domestic violence.
Right, but the 70% that you cited has nothing to do with that statistic. They
I
are
didn't.
completely separate.
I didn't say that it did.
Right, so it makes no sense to cite it talking about how we would have even more IPV in a manless world
I
when
didn't
the
say. I
statistic
didn't. I
has
didn't say more.
literally
I did
nothing to
not
do with
say
that.
IP. I didn't say more.
Yeah, well, the 70% statistic kind of indicates or hints at the fact that you're trying to insinuate that we would need more than one police officer, hence why you stitched the video.
It hints that we would need more than one police officer because it shows that women are also violent at times. Even if it's less violent than men, they're still violent. They still beat their partners. So if they beat their partners, and especially if lesbians have the highest amount, and then if lesbians have the highest amount, and if there were no men in the world, that means that every woman would have to be lesbian. So that means that there would be more abuse because lesbians report the highest amount of abuse. So that means that we would need more than one police officer because women still beat their partners. Women still commit crimes.
You think like
It's not
you
like women.
have
It's not
to
like
have
women
a
do not commit
partner?
crimes at all. What do you mean?
I never stated that. Also, do you think women just like have to have a partner? Do you think that like they would just have to be lesbian? Like, do you
Most
think
people do not want to be single the entirety of their life. So yes, if there are no men, then they would have to be lesbian. Yes.
right, you genuinely believe that like the movement that's largely about being able to be independent and not codependent on other people
It has
is
nothing to do.
going
It
to
has
make
nothing to
you
do with
codependent
codependence.
on other
You can be
people
in
when men
two
just
people can be in a
disappear.
relationship and be independent together, but they're still in a relationship.
Right. When
Being
I
in a
say
relationship does
independent,
not
I
necessarily mean
mean
you have
in
to be
a
codependent.
relationship sense. A lot of the feminist rhetoric that's talking about independence is largely in a relationship aspect because of how much labor is, what's the word for it? Attributed, I guess, to the women in these roles, and therefore the main message of independence is usually talking about relationships, which you'd know if you'd actually listen to the talking point.
And which talking point is that?
The one that I just spent like a solid 30 seconds describing.
We'll describe it again.
Women talking points for feminism when we're talking about independence is usually in relation to relationships because usually in marriages a lot of the labor is attributed towards women
What labor?
completely unfairly, hence why they want to just get out of the whole scenario as a whole.
What labor
My
in
only
specific?
point,
What labor specifically are you talking about?
yeah, child rearing responsibilities, anything remotely related to house care, just anything in general that has to do with being at home and the house and children.
So when you say the house care, do you mean like repairing broken things or changing the oil or mowing the
Yeah, you see,
lawn?
these are things that are like very rarely needing to be repaired, whereas women have to do these things on a daily basis, such as like washing clothes or doing the dishes, or simply like mopping the floors or vacuuming the floors, or just doing anything. Anything you can think of that you have to do on a daily basis is usually put towards women rather than men who have to do it kind of maybe like once a month.
Okay, so you said that it's very unfairly attributed towards women. So if the partners, assuming heterosexual, were to agree upon doing all of this work together, or if the partners were to agree that, let's say, the man does all of the, let's say, quote unquote female labor, would that be unfair?
Sorry, could you rephrase that? Are you saying that like the
Let's
man would be
let's assume that the roles were switched. Would it be unfair if the man were to do all of that labor?
yes,
Why?
because it's an unfair amount of labor put onto one person when it's supposed to be a two-person job.
Why does it have to be a two-person job?
Because it's co-parenting, it's two people.
What does co-parenting have to do with taking care of a home? People in a relationship don't necessarily have to have children.
Fine, we were talking about children in this context, but if you want to take children out of it, still.
We weren't, because you brought up the my video about the unreciprocated domestic abuse. Children were never part of the equation.
I said child rearing responsibilities when you asked me what I was talking about.
Yeah, and I moved away from that, and I was talking about labors around the home.
Sure, you did not make it clear enough.
Well, it was clear to me. It wasn't clear to you. Those aren't the same thing.
Oh my god, you sound like Um, yes, even in these like non-child relationships, a lot of like the housework is still unfairly put onto the women a lot of the times. And yeah, so it'd still be unfair if it was put onto the men because the whole unfairness of this, the unfair aspect is the fact that more is being put on one person rather than the other. It doesn't matter their gender, it just so happens that women get the short end of the stick.
So if between the partnership, regardless of who's doing the work, if between the partnership one partner was working and bringing home money and the other partner was staying home doing all of the let's say unpaid labor, why is that unfair?
Sorry, what?
If one partner is going and working and bringing home money and the other partner is staying home and doing all of the unpaid labor at home, what makes that unfair?
You just said it, unpaid labor. The other one is going to a job and getting paid for their labor. The other one is sitting at home doing completely non-paid labor. Completely non-paid.
But if let's say you live by yourself, man or woman, if you live by yourself and you earned all of your own money, you would still have to come home and do all of that labor anyway. Uh,
Right, but now you're doing it for another person for free.
it's not for free because they're paying for your ability to live in their house and be in a relationship with them, and they're paying for literally every part of your life.
Right, that's
So,
completely unfair. You literally don't own anything and you're just their fucking maid.
I mean,
Do you
you're
not
not.
see what's unfair about that?
No,
You
it's un,
don't see what's unfair about not having any
it's
type of
unfair.
like
It's
money
unfair
on
if
your
you were.
own and you have to clean up their shit constantly.
I mean,
You don't see what's
it's
unfair about
unfair
that.
if you literally if you're a slave, if you were forced into that life. But if you agreed upon that life, and it's not
Wait,
that
do you think that like choices and agreements aren't influenced by like social pressures and like social norms?
it depends on what it is.
I think it's pretty clear in this instance we're talking about women and child rearing or like households type of responsibilities. Do you think that's not very heavily socially influenced?
It could be.
Is it or is it not?
It could be. It depends. It completely depends on how that
How could
individual
it depend?
because it depends on how that individual is brought up. It depends on what that individual believes in. It depends on how that individual sees the messages that they were taught in their own life.
Historically, who has had a majority, if not all, of the household responsibilities?
Historically,
Right. And do you think that just disappears once we start getting like certain legislation acts passed? Do you think that just like dissipates?
not legislation, but social changes and society changing. Yes,
Right. And do you think majority of men now do most of the household responsibilities?
I mean, if they're single, then yes.
No, they don't. We're talking about in relationships. I don't know why you keep moving the goalpost.
I'm not moving the goalposts.
You literally just did. We're talking about a heterosexual relationship, and you're like, if they're single. Yeah, it's a pretty big shift in goalposts.
I mean, even if they're in the relationship, there's quite literally no way of being able to know.
What do you mean?
No way to be able to know. The man or a woman in a relationship. Because it also depends, like if
What?
because you also brought up childbearing, so let's go back to the childbearing, right? So if you want to go back to the childbearing part, women obviously have to have the child, like only women can be pregnant, right? So once they're pregnant, once they have their maternity leave, who's going to be home all the time taking care of the child? And not only taking care of the child, but if you're already home taking care of the child, you're going to be doing other things as well,
right? Both of them. They should have like paternal leave. Both parents should get a type of leave, a paid leave, so they can take care of their own child at home.
I mean, sure,
For equal amounts of time.
sure, but saying
Would
should
you not
doesn't
agree?
really. I mean, saying should doesn't change anything. Like,
Right, but
excuse me.
aren't we arguing about like what should be rather than what is? It's kind of stupid to argue about what is. We can just like look at the legislation as it is.
I mean, the reason why it's arguing what should be at times, it just doesn't work, is because like I can say a lot of things should be the case, right? Like, but just because it should be doesn't necessarily mean that we can even realistically argue for that.
You don't think it's realistic to have both parents get a paid leave after they have children?
No.
Are you aware of the fact that a lot of other European countries already do this successfully?
Yes.
Then what do you mean it doesn't work?
Um, the reason I would imagine it doesn't work is because one, other European countries don't have a
You don't
population
have
that.
to imagine. It's literally reality.
You asked why it wouldn't work, so I'm telling you. So yes, you do have to imagine.
Right, because your perspective literally doesn't exist because it actually does work in reality.
The reason I imagine that it doesn't work is because that America has a population of over 300 million people.
What
Europe,
the fuck does that have to do with this?
population sizes changes how countries can operate.
Right, but when we're talking about interpersonal levels of like an individual marriage and taking equal time off to care for a child you just had, I don't think that has anything to do with the other numbers of population.
It does, and it also has to do with the type of industries that the individual countries partake in, right? Because like if we have, let's say, how do I put this? If we have jobs here that they don't have in Europe that are more crucial to not only us running and us functioning, but also the rest of the world running and functioning, then the people who do those jobs are not going to be able to take off those jobs as often.
Such as
Um, farming. If I'm not, what is it? What is it? It's either almonds. If I'm not mistaken, it's either almonds or pecans, one of the two. But one of the two, it's made in it's.
farmers who stay at home on their own property all day long.
I mean, you asked for an example.
Yeah, of people who already stay on their own property for the entirety of their job.
People who do like, I don't know, let's say like fishing boats, crab fishing, oil rigs, other jobs like that, jobs that we have here that keep not only us but the rest of the world running.
What percentage of men
Construction
in
jobs.
America do those jobs?
I have no idea. Do you know?
Then why are you citing this as if it's going to largely affect the population?
Because if all of, let's say, our, I don't know, I'm gonna say pecan. I don't think it's pecan, but I'm gonna say that one. So like if all of the pecan farmers at the same time take off, then the world won't have those.
Do you think everybody just has kids at the same time? What the fuck? I thought this was realistic.
I mean, there's only 12 months in a year, so children will be born within the same 365 days.
It's not like everybody has children every single year, multiple times a year. I mean, this is like once a year, maybe like twice again, like a couple years down the road. I mean, like, it's not like everybody is taking off at the same time. And even if they did, other countries, again, we already have a model for this in European countries where this does in fact work.
And what's your source for that?
Sure, yeah, Sweden. I could get you. Hang on. I'm pretty sure Germany has the same thing as well. It's like 12 months or something of like paid maternity or paternity leave. Okay, yeah. Parental benefit is money you get in order to be able to stay home with your children instead of working, looking for work, or studying. Both parents together receive 480 days of parental benefit per child. In the case of multiple births, an additional 180 days are granted to each additional child. I could send you the
So wait,
source for
how
this.
many days did you say?
480, an additional 180 for each
And you
child.
said Sweden, correct?
I believe so. I might be looking at Europe as a whole, but I'm pretty sure this is Sweden exclusive.
What's the population of Sweden?
I am not aware of that off the top of my head, and I really
10.42
do
million
not
people.
see.
10.42 million people.
Yeah, I
With
don't see your point.
literally every single person in Sweden could take off, and that would be such a minute part of everything in the entire world that is missing. The country of Sweden could be wiped off the face of the planet. 10 million people wouldn't make a difference. Now,
Tony,
now imagine
Tony,
even now imagine
Tony,
even
Tony, wait. Realistically, if you genuinely want to look at this realistically, they're not taking every single day of the 480 days plus an additional 800, 180 days off. I mean, honestly, do you actually think they're taking that off? They're not. They're not taking every single day off. Typically, they switch back and forth, hence the reason why they have um, these days kind of given out to both the mother and the father so it can be distributed equally. They can still go back to work while their partner is still caring for the child or doing household responsibilities at home, and they switch off.
so that
However, it's still equal because they still do an equal amount of time.
so that 400 days is between the man and the woman. It's not just like
What?
the 400 days that they get for leave for paternal and or maternal leave. Is that for both partners split, or is that only for like if I work at, let's say, a steel company, then I get 400 days. If my wife's a teacher, then she gets the 400 additional days, or is that shared between us?
It's shared between you.
Okay, and so it would still be unfair if the couple themselves decided, okay, one of us is going to stay home. That would still be unfair to you, even if they completely willingly agree to it. That would still be unfair to you.
I don't know how willing it can be in a society that like practically brainwashes you to believe that you should do the child rearing responsibilities or household
So you
responsibilities.
believe in society being able to brainwash people?
Yes,
Is it
social influence is a thing.
is it possible that you are brainwashed? Let me ask you that.
Yes, I have social influences. Everybody does. All of my actions are socially influenced, partially genetically, but for the most part, socially.
What do you mean partially genetically?
Right, like some of my actions can be attributed to genetics, but not all of them.
Genetics like what?
Yeah, so we only have about like 90% of like neuroplasticity in our brain, and I'm not sure if you're aware of what that is, but it's where our brain can kind of, to put this into dumb terms, like morph, if you will. It's kind of the social influence we get. It's 90% comprised of the social influence and it changes over time. Like it's malleable, hence like the neuroplasticity part of it.
Mm-hmm.
The other 10% is usually just attributed to like certain genetics. Like, hang on.
Chad, this is going
Sorry, I had somebody
fucking
come into my room. But
terrible. Holy
yeah, like the
shit.
other genetic aspect, for example, like intelligence. Intelligence isn't 100% socially influenced or able to alter with your own ability. A lot of, not a lot of it, but a portion of it is genetics. They've done a bunch of studies on like certain twins and how their intelligence can vary or not vary, even if they have different levels of like education or what's the word?
So wait, you
Like
said
extensive
IQ
education.
is genetically influenced. You said a part of it. Do you know what part of it? Like a percentage?
No, I'm not aware of that off the top of my head.
Do you know if it's larger or smaller?
I would assume smaller.
Okay. Do you have that neuroplasticity thing? Do you have the source for that? Can you send that to me? Lord have mercy. From what I understand, chat, I'm pretty sure I appreciate the subs, Ralu, by the way. I'm pretty sure IQ is mainly genetic, by the way. It's mainly has to do with upbringing. Like you're just essentially born into a certain range, and your upbringing and how you were raised determines the rest of it. Not gonna lie to you. It's just an indicator. Yeah, she continues to, yeah, of course, because that's what they always do. They don't avoid, they don't answer the questions at all. How is something unfair if you literally agreed to it? You are agreeing to doing to this. You like, uh, it's like, oh, well, now they have nothing in their name. Well, that's what they agreed to. Like, so if someone makes an let's say an unfair trade, then what? Like, IQ is genetic and environment,
If
exactly.
I'm not mistaken, I think it's actually in one of the public channels
I don't know what the
under.
fuck that means. I'm not going through this Discord,
If
bro.
it's
This
not under
Discord has like this
bioessentialism,
disco
it's
or it has like 50 fucking
under
channels. I'm not going through that shit out of your fucking mind.
turf critical,
Exactly. Should just
probably.
turf. Oh my
I typically
god,
put
the
all of my
term turf.
resources that I cite for the most part in those channels.
You said turf radical.
What?
I'm asking what you said. I didn't hear you.
Turf critical or bioessential critical. I usually put all of like the or wait, hang on. It might have been in the where is it?
Bro, I ask a question and she's so fucking rude.
Possibly
You
in
said like I actually
neurosexism,
didn't
but a
hear her.
lot of
She's
that
like
is talking about
what?
other stuff related to the
like
brain.
such a
Just anything that really has to do with if you see like neuro in the title or bioessentialism.
What exactly is bioessentialism?
It's the idea that your biology is essential. You can't really like change it. It's the main argument that transphobes use against trans people.
You can change your biology?
No, that your biology is your gender. It's essential to it is the point.
What's wrong about that statement?
They're not the same thing.
How are they not the same thing?
Yeah, so gender is things like basically things we just made up, like the color pink, dresses, like lipstick, makeup, heels,
Agreed.
curly hair, all these other things, and then the opposite for men, right? None of
Sure.
that is innately tied to your biology. There's literally nothing you can point to say, if I have a dick, I have an affinity for the color blue. That's absurd. Like
Agreed.
it doesn't exist. So these social aspects of gender literally have nothing to do with your biology.
Social aspects of gender. So the way that we socialize how we, let's say, in certain senses, let's say, express factors of our gender isn't biology, is what you're saying, if that makes sense.
Well, certain expressions of like any action can be genetic or biological. But when we're talking about gender, we're talking about largely socially created behaviors.
Okay, so the socially created, is it possible that some of the socially created behaviors are a result of our biology? Is that a possibility?
Could you give me an example?
Boys playing with, let's say, toy trucks or toy robots, and girls playing with dolls.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything about your genitalia or biology has to do with the toys you like to play with. It has a lot more to do with whatever you're handed. I mean, honestly, like if you only have dolls to play with, what are you going to do? Play with dolls. If your parent only gives you toy trucks or Legos to play with, what are you going to do? Play with toy trucks and Legos.
Okay, so generally, though, men prefer working with things and women prefer working with people. And so, would that not play out in children as well, with children picking things like, I don't know, a toy robot versus a little girl picking a doll?
You not think like an affinity to want to work with like a community or other people is not socially influenced?
To a certain degree.
Right. Can you point me to any peer-reviewed research that says this community type
Peer
thing in
reviewed.
women is biological and has absolutely no social influences whatsoever?
I mean, everything has social influences. We're social creatures. Every action that we take, every thought that
Right,
we
but I'm
have,
saying
everything.
can it exist without the social influence that we have of it now? And I'm glad you just conceded that there is.
That there's social influence. I've never said otherwise.
For the thing that you just cited of women having an affinity for like community and people.
Yeah, that's a. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's socially influenced, which is
I never
good. I'm
said.
glad you conceded that.
I'm glad that I never said the opposite.
Then why on earth would you cite it, sorry, as an argument for why or an example of biological aspects of quote unquote gender?
Because if human beings are naturally social creatures, then that means that if we're naturally and biologically social, then that means that everything that we have will be socially influenced.
Not everything, but sure.
Not everything, like what?
The things that I've just cited, the 10% of your brain that isn't neuroplastic, like
So humans aren't social creatures.
they are. When did I not say this? I'm just saying that like not everything is 100% socially
Okay,
influenced. I'm
most
not
things
letting go.
then. Most things, not everything, most things. Most things
Yes,
are a
that's the
result.
argument I've been giving. Yes, I'm glad we agree. Am I getting pinged in?
Okay,
You
so if we're
still there?
if we're social creatures and most of our actions are dictated by us being social creatures, then would that not push us to doing certain things and being different? Because
This is
we
very vague. What do you mean?
I'm gonna have a mental fucking breakdown. So like when I said that men prefer working with things and women prefer working with people. Yes, there's some social influence that work there, but the question is which came first? The social influence or the result?
Wait, I'm sorry. You said all people are social creatures?
Everyone outside of people with ASPD, yes.
Right, men included.
Yes.
Right, and so it's safe to assume that the only reason they haven't been ascribed this type of identity of having an affinity for community or people is because they were ascribed this other thing of things, right? I mean, if we all start at the baseline of being people like persons, then I mean, I don't know what's ambiguous about
is
like
it
the
possible that
social
men are
influence
just
here.
less natural people?
No, I think how social you are with other people is largely socially influenced.
And if it wasn't?
What do you mean if it wasn't? Have you looked into like the psychology of this at all?
No, but explain it to me. These people are so fucking
What aspect?
condescending. I mean, you brought up looking into it, so just some aspect that comes off the top of your head. Now these people are so fucking condescending. I'm not
Well,
even gonna
yeah,
lie to
I'd
you.
hope it'd be related to this so we could actually get something out of it. I mean, most of the things that I've been citing recently are just like things that you learn in the basic psychology class in like a community
Basic
college or
psychology
something.
and community college. You see how condescending that is? You see how classist that is that just came out of her fucking mouth? Do you see that? Y'all hear that, right? Just make a shit.
Muted again.
Okay, so things that I learned at a basic community college in an intro to psych class. Cool. What if people can't afford to go to intro to psych class or they don't even go to college? Most people don't go to college, in fact.
It's free through high school. You can apply to get these classes for free.
For every high school throughout the entire country?
I'm not sure, but these are also like very basic concepts that are also in textbooks for free for on like PDFs online.
Okay.
And
Can
so is the research backing it up.
okay, research backing what up? What claim?
What we're talking about of like a large portion of your behaviors that you have being socially influenced and only a relatively small portion being genetically influenced or biological, if you will.
Which came first? Biology or social? Biological or social? Which one came first?
Biology.
Okay, so if biology came first, then something had to define social. What defines social?
Well, currently men. I don't know what you mean.
You have social and you have biological, right? Those are the two main aspects.
Right.
One had to come before the other. One has to define the other. Which,
Wait, I think we're having like a jump in logic here. I don't see how like one coming first automatically means that like one causes the other or like is inherently tied to the other just because it came before the other one. Can they not independently exist?
no.
I mean, yeah, like one can build off of the other, but I don't see how that means that like
If one builds
they're.
off the other, then one came first and it caused the other one, no?
What do you mean caused? Our social like all of our social structures are very like we literally just made them up. It has nothing really to do with biology, like whatsoever. We just kind of like said that hey, yeah, women can wear dresses and men can just not, which is ironic because like a couple hundred years ago or something, it was very opposite, which shows how arbitrary it is.
I mean, yeah, as far as things like that, like the specific things that the sexes do it, yeah, no, those are in certain cases the specific things that the sexes do is completely arbitrary. I agree 100%. Like as far as like boys liking blue, girls liking pink, women wearing heels, men not wearing heels, even though men used to wear heels because it would accentuate their calves, like things like that, they're completely and utterly arbitrary. I do not disagree. But in other certain aspects, it's a result of what is it? I'm saying it's a result of biology, right? So you believe in the thing like the patriarchy in modern America, correct?
I don't believe in it. I fucking live in it. Oh my god.
Okay, so the patriarchy exists throughout most of the world currently, correct?
If not all.
Sure. Sure. I can even say all. Let's say that the patriarchy exists throughout the entire world, okay? How is it that throughout 7 continents, how is it that throughout 7 continents and over 10 billion people in our human history, men have been at the top in every single one of them? How is that? Why is that?
Because they have largely wielded gender as a tool of oppression. I mean, are you trying to insinuate that just because you have an oppressor for a long period of time means that you're innately less worthy, for lack of a better word, than them? Because I feel like this would lead to a lot of really bad reductions.
No. What I'm saying is that out of 10 billion people, out of 7 continents, out of over 190 countries, out of about 12,000 years of human civilization, how have men been at the top every single time? You say they wielded gender as their weapon for oppression, correct?
Right,
What does that
largely,
mean?
yes. Right, like things of women having to do unpaid labor at home. That's a very, very big one that kept men at the top, while women were at home taking care of their household responsibilities, taking care of just all these other things, even the children,
But
just
how did
actually
men
raising
get
the
to the
children.
top?
It enables the men to focus on their work and education and not have to get distracted with these other things. And therefore, they can stay at the top because they simply just have the means to do so. Whereas women just don't. They're forced to stay at home and do these
What do you
other
mean? What do you
things
mean men have the
historically.
means to do so?
Right, they have wives who take care of all of their other responsibilities, so all they have to do is go and get their education or do whatever work they want to do.
So you said men
Women couldn't.
wielded their gender as a weapon. Okay. So why did women not do the same thing? 10 billion people, 190 plus countries, 12,000 years of human civilization. Why did women not do the same thing? How is
Why
it?
did Jewish people just not have the Holocaust happen to them? Like, what the fuck?
That is a very super specific instance. Okay. But
It literally any instance ever of you having an oppressor, anyone having an oppressor, you saying, why didn't you just not have an oppressor? What kind of fucking argument is that?
how did you get oppressed?
I just told you over and over. I just told you the means in which they got their power.
You can't just wielded gender as their weapon. What do you mean? Like I
You
I
asked
I I
how?
I
That's
I
how they
agree
got
with you. I
there.
agree with you in a sense. With that answer, I actually do agree with you in a sense. I do believe that men, in a sense of the word, at times did quote unquote wield their sex as a weapon. Okay, but I don't think that it's in the way that you're thinking about it.
I just told you the ways that I'm thinking about it. What do you mean?
And I'm telling you that the ways that you're thinking about it are wrong. What do you mean?
I'm wrong to say that historically women had to stay at home, could not get an education, could not own property, could not vote, could not do anything remotely
Go
related
further
to
back. Go
modern
further back.
society.
Go further back.
You want me to go
Bef-
further back where they had even
before
less rights?
before society started, human civilization had to start around a point.
Wait, you are aware that like very early like civilizations were like egalitarian, right? You're aware of this, right? Like
Define egalitarian.
equal. Like they were you relatively equal. I wouldn't say like 100%. I don't think we'll ever quite reach that in this type of state. But yeah, no, a lot of them were egalitarian.
So they were
Some of them were even matriarchies.
egalitarian slash matriarchies until about when?
I'm not sure of the exact time period.
So if they were egalitarian and slash matriarchal even until, let's say, rather recently in human civilization, what flipped the cards?
I'm being quizzed here. I'm not sure. I don't have these things off the top of
I
my
mean,
head. I'm
you
not
brought up the
sure how
point,
they're
so I'm
quizzing.
asking you to defend the point.
What did I bring up? I'm sorry. I don't remember
Egalitarian
giving a
slash
point that was defendable.
egalitarian slash matriarchy.
Yeah, I can give you a source that shows that these were the early civilizations. I don't see how that leads me to answer
Source
your
after source after source. You
quiz
can't fucking
questions of
substantiate
like
me.
when the fuck patriarchy started. The burden of proof isn't on me if I'm already giving you my source.
I mean, but I don't have a source, so.
Here.
Yo, these people in our
You
call
have
right now
your
keep
DMs
tagging me.
on Discord open?
Yeah.
Or I could put it in the VC stage chat so everybody can see or click on it if they want.
Oh my god, these people in this fucking Discord are actually
Here,
delusional.
I'll just copy the whole thing. It's from one of the research channels. So it's gonna have like a little wall of text, as you like to say, right above it. It gives a synopsis of what's in the link.
Holy shit, these people. Nah, if y'all could see this fucking Discord chat right now, oh my god. No, they are actually some of the most. Look. Nah, this is funny. No, chat, I'm gonna show y'all this. Look at this shit. Where was it? This man has never met a real woman in his life, says Cinnamon Girl.
This article is mainly related to like economic type of things, like capitalism versus socialism or communism. But it has to do with human nature and how early societies were egalitarian.
I didn't care that he's ever spoken to someone before. Holy shit.
I just put it in the VC stage chat. I can pin it if you need.
Word. Human nature. Sign up for a newsletter, not signing up for shit. It's only changed within the last 10,000 years. Wait. Hunter-gatherer barriers. Or knowledge of a topic of practice. So, skimming through this, hierarchy, inequality, and oppression were virtually unheard of. People did live in egalitarian societies. Okay, hierarchy, inequality, and oppression. This only changed within the last 10,000 years. Human civilization is about 10,000 years old. That means that the inequality, oppression, hierarchy, patriarchy, whatever you want to call it, has pretty much existed since the beginning of human civilization, according to this article that you sent me. And that's only skimming through it because this is a little bit this is a little bit longer, so it's going to be a while to get through. But so that means that the whole patriarchy has essentially existed since the beginning. And
right, and you asked me what to it.
And I mean, I kind of figured that, and that's what I was referring to. And I'm asking, why is that the case?
If you read the article, it actually goes into great detail about it.
You can't give a TLDR of an article that you've read before?
I haven't sat and read this entire thing.
You haven't sat and read the entire article that you used as a source?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at an abstract or a summary of the article at the top, it's pretty safe to assume that's what the article is about. I mean, again, I don't see what this point even proves. I mean, even if I did go into this long conversation with you about like how patriarchy and oppression of women started, I don't see how this proves any point of yours. If you could just like actually give your points and your talking points, that'd be great.
I mean, the point still stands, and the article that you gave shows that point. My point is that since the start of human civilization, there's always been a form of hierarchy. You can call it patriarchy, you can really call it whatever you'd like. And my
What does
question,
that prove?
it proves that if it's consistent throughout everywhere in the entire world and it has stretched 12,000 years later into modern society, why is that the case if it's not a biological difference?
Because oppression isn't a thing easily dismantled, especially when half of the population has great interest in keeping it alive.
It's not a thing easily dismantled. Would you agree or disagree that slaves in America were oppressed?
Yes, they were in fact oppressed greatly.
Okay. Was that dismantled?
Do you think, no, wait, slavery as a concept was dismantled, however, racism didn't just disappear after we just like freed enslaved
But
people.
slavery and racism are not the two same kinds of oppression. So was slavery dismantled?
Right, racism is a side effect of the slavery that we had going on in
Was
America.
slavery dismantled?
Yes.
Okay, that is a form of oppression. How much of the
Do you think that was easy? Wait. Do you
how
think
much of
wait. Do you think like it was actually easy to like dismantle slavery? We had a whole fucking war over it. What are you talking about?
I mean, if you let me finish my point, then I would be able to tell you what I'm talking about. How much of the South did not want slavery to go away?
I believe the Confederacy had about like 11 states, if I'm not mistaken, or 14. I cannot completely remember.
Would you say that it was more than 50% of the people in the South who did not want slavery to go away?
Yeah.
Okay. Out of the 11 states that were in the Confederacy, how many were in the Union?
Um, Not exactly sure, but they definitely had a larger population.
Okay, so if most people didn't want slavery to go away, then why did slavery go away?
Because it's bad, and we had a president who signed an act that let them go. Actually, that's not the true story. He signed an act that let the southern states let their enslaved people go, but the border states still had enslaved people. This is what I mean. It wasn't a very easy process. It was very long.
I didn't say it was easy.
Well, you did. You're citing. It's as if you're citing slavery being dismantled as like oppression being easily dismantled, as opposed to my point of it not. Otherwise, I don't know why you brought it up.
I mean, your point was not only it's not easily dismantled, but it's also not easily dismantled if 50% of the population doesn't want it dismantled. That wasn't my point was never about the difficulty of such. I would also agree that oppression is never easily dismantled. Oppression of the
Then
poor,
then what
oppression
is
of race,
the
oppression
point?
of women. My point is about the you said 50% if they don't want it dismantled. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care about the difficulty of such. The reason I'm asking is to compare the amount of people who didn't want slavery to go away, and especially when slavery quite
What does
literally
that
benefits them.
what does that have to like what does that prove? I'm confused. Like what point does this come back to? You good?
So we got rid of slavery because we agreed that slavery was bad. Why can we not agree that the patriarchy is bad?
Well, we didn't agree. We had a whole war over it. I thought we went over this.
Okay, so not obviously not everyone would agree, because if everyone agreed, then it just wouldn't exist at all. Okay, but clearly the majority, or at least at the very least the stronger ones, agreed that slavery was bad, so we got rid of slavery. So why do we not say the same thing about patriarchy? If it's so bad, it's so oppressive in the modern world, specifically in the modern world, because there are plenty of less modern worlds where I would agree 100% they live in a patriarchy. But in the modern world, why can we not unanimously agree, or at the very least an overwhelming majority agree that it's bad, and that it even exists?
We have in certain aspects. I mean, there's a bunch of legislation you can break down, such as like suffragettes, the right to vote, the right to own property, all these different
I
things
agree.
that we got passed that contributed to deconstructing patriarchy.
I
These
agree.
things, in and of themselves, don't dismantle it entirely. However, it contributes to it.
So what
So
parts of
if
the
you're
modern world
looking
are
for
still
like,
patriarchal?
come again?
What parts of the modern world are still patriarchal?
I think I've brought it up at least 10 times now. The unpaid labor that women have to do at home after giving birth, especially, and having to stay home and nearly get fired from their job because they have to take so much time off if their company doesn't allow them to have paid leave, which again
So
isn't
if the
entirely
positions are switched
mandated.
and the woman still goes to work and the husband stays home, how is that not patriarchal? Why is that unpaid labor all of a sudden no longer patriarchal?
I
Or is
never
it?
said I don't advocate for that. I advocate for
I did not say you did advocate for that. I'm asking, is the opposition still patriarchal?
that would be matriarchal, but yes, still not good.
So whenever it comes to splitting the unpaid labor part of it, why does the unpaid labor need to be split? Why can one partner not do paid labor and the other partner do unpaid labor? What is wrong with that? If the partners agree to it, and societal influence does not matter in that instance, why can a person why can a person
You
not
mean this does
why
not
can
matter?
because I'm explaining it to you. Like, you can mute when you laugh if you're gonna be rude about it.
Oh,
Society
sorry for having natural human
because
reactions for
societal
being like
influence, a person can come to terms with their societal influence.
what do you mean come to terms?
Can they think, okay, this is the way that society looks at it, I can decide on whether or not to do this or to not do this? Is that a possibility? Or are they just
Believe it or not,
slaves of the matrix?
yeah, believe it or not, social influence isn't just something you get to pick whether or not you pick up on.
So
I
social
mean, like your
influence
brain
isn't
is like, wait,
something.
wait, hang on, wait, stop. Listen, like genuinely, your brain
So
is
when I
like a
talk, she can laugh like
sponge.
a
If you
rude
have a
cunt, but when
giant
she talks,
fucking
I have to
puddle on the
shut the fuck
ground
up.
and you put the sponge in the puddle, it's going to soak it up no matter what. It
Sure.
can, somebody can choose to like wring out the sponge and like have the water get out of the sponge, but at the instance of it being in the puddle, it's going to absorb it no matter what. It has no control over it. It just happens.
Sure.
Later down the line, sure, they can choose to expel it, but it's not universal or even
Sure, but if the
total.
sponge can acknowledge that it's in a puddle, then it can acknowledge where it absorbed it from.
Not all sponges can, hence the complexity of psychology.
So if not all sponges can acknowledge the fact that they're, so some sponges are just slaves to the system then.
um, yeah, that's how our brain kind of works.
So then what is free will? If we're just slaves to the system and whatever societal influence says, then what is free will?
I think you've just
Uh,
discovered something about yourself. Exactly. Free will is largely influenced by social influences. You are a product of your environment.
okay, you're a product of your environment. Sure, I agree. So if you're a product of your environment, does that mean that if someone grows up and then they act according to the environment that they were brought up in, does that mean that it's not their fault?
What do you mean by fault?
If some like they're just they didn't choose to do it, they were just they were just exactly that, a product of their environment. Let's say someone goes out and commits a crime.
It wouldn't excuse them from their liability, but you can still say that they are a product of their environment. It's not mutually exclusive. Just because they are a product of their environment does not inherently just excuse their actions.
So what if someone acted opposite of their environment? Let's say someone was brought up in the most perfect life ever and never introduced to crime, and they went out and became a criminal. What then?
Have you ever heard of reverse psychology? Like, are you aware of like the people who go to like Catholic boarding schools and become like a gay atheist later on in life?
What about them?
Right. It's still a social influence. They were in these environments and they disliked them so much, or they had other environments that they got into later after this Catholic boarding school that made them become an atheist. However, it was still a social environment that enabled them to become atheist. It was just a different one. It was an atheist one rather than like a Catholic one.
Okay, so the example that you brought up was like going to a Catholic boarding school and then becoming a gay atheist. So is homosexuality a product of their environment?
No, that was just a little spice I added in there because I love gay people. Do you love gay people?
I don't love anyone.
You don't like gay people?
I don't like anyone.
Why don't you like gay people?
I don't like anyone.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
I mean, I don't think so. Just the product of my environment, really.
Still be crazy and a product of your environment, dear Lord. But yeah, no, again, this whole thing of like you become the opposite of your initial environment. Like it's like usually one of two things. Either your initial environment caused you so much trauma that you don't want to be associated with it and you become the exact opposite, or you progress into a different environment later on in life and that later environment influences you to become a different thing, such as like the whole atheist thing. After you leave Catholic boarding school, you join like an atheist club or whatever the fuck. You become atheists. I mean,
Okay, so going back to the original point, the unpaid labor point, what would you say would be a, let's say that a couple figured out they were doing 50-50 unpaid labor, then what's the next step against the quote unquote patriarchy?
yeah, I'm a communist, so I would like that labor to be paid in the end. However, under a capitalist society, the best thing you can do is this whole like equal paid time off for the parents to take care of their children and household.
Communist is crazy! Okay, so you want people to get paid for their work at home, for like taking care of their home.
Right. I don't see it as any different from like being a maid or like anything else, like a janitor or something. It's essentially it literally is the same qualities.
Well, maids and janitors get paid because they're cleaning other people's things, not their own.
Right. Your wife cleans your things, not hers. She can clean hers, which is
if you're
perfectly
married,
fine.
it quite literally is her things. It's both of y'all's things. Quite literally, if you're married, they
Do
are
you know
her
the
things.
difference between like your legal property versus like your personal property?
What do you mean?
Like you can be married and share like legal aspects of property like the house or apartment whatever that you live in.
Sure.
But like you wouldn't say that like the socks that you wear every day like legally belong to your wife or something. Like it's just or like not to cite like the typical communist argument, your toothbrush. I mean, it's still your toothbrush. It's still your things. It's your personal items that you use on a daily basis that she doesn't. She doesn't use your socks. She doesn't use your toothbrush. She doesn't use your side of the sink. I mean, the list goes on. It's things that you use exclusively that she's cleaning or picking up after.
What picking up do toothbrushes require? Do people leave their toothbrushes on the floor?
Your clothes. She's picking up your clothes, for instance, and putting them in the wash and washing them for you, and then folding them for you, and then putting them in your dresser for you.
Okay, but you're also like paying for her to have a home and not have to go to work. So I feel like that's an equivalent exchange.
Oh, yes. Women love to stay at home, have no social, economic, or political power ever just because they get paid by their fucking husband.
What do you
This is
mean?
what I mean. This
What do
wait,
you
even
what do you mean?
wait.
What do you mean economic or
Even
political
if
power? Women make
even
80% of
oh my
economic
god, can I
decisions.
finish my
There are
point?
more there are more
I
female
will get to
voters.
your point.
There are more
Tony, I will
female
get to your
voters
point.
than male voters. There are about
Tony,
10 million
I
more
will
voters that
get
voted in
to your
2020
point.
than
I
males.
promise you I
What
will address your
political
point if you let me finish mine first.
But you mean like when I'm in the middle of making my points and then you
Oh
burst
my
out into
God.
laughter?
Yes, Tony, if you want me to
Okay.
cite the source right now, I can, on
What
how majority
source?
of political positions are held by men and not women. Just because
And
women
there,
can
but
vote
there,
does not mean that
but
they
there are
have
more.
a
Yeah, but
large
there are
influence
more
over
female
legislation as a
voters.
whole.
That's the problem. That means that women aren't even voting for women.
Tony, tell me what's more important. You having more, like a bigger voter base, or you having more people already in positions of power that can make legislation. And just because they're women
I
does
mean,
not mean that they automatically vote like left.
but I mean, just because that, I mean, just because there are more currently men in positions of power, that doesn't really matter. Like, who
Do you
runs
know the
more?
definition of
Who
patriarchy?
runs for more officers, men or women?
I'm not aware of that off the top of my head.
To my knowledge and my understanding, there are more men who run for office than women. So already your candidates, it's all automatically going to be more men, just generally, right? If I have a
And
hundred
why is
people,
that?
if I have 100 people applying for a job and 70% of them are Caucasian, and I only have room for 10 of them, then statistically most of those people, if not all of them, are going to be Caucasian. Yes or no? Just based off of
Sure, and
numbers alone, right?
right,
So if
right, and
already
that
if there
begs
are
the
already
question of
more men
wait,
who
wait,
are
wait, stop,
running,
stop.
if there are already more men who are running, then there's more than likely going to be more men who are in office as well.
I agree, which begs the question of what caused 70% of this demographic to be wanting to do this and the other one not.
Because men and women
I'll
have
give you a
different
hint.
interests.
It's literally social influence. It's this,
Because men and
you're
women have
asking
different
why patriarchy
interests.
exists as it like exists. Like you're asking why the effects of
Oh
this
no,
are
I don't think
happening
patriarchy exists.
as
The
it
question more
literally.
is more so, why do you think that
Oh, you don't
patriarchy
think it
exists?
exists?
No, not at all, not in the slightest.
How do you
Not in
define
the modern world.
patriarchy? How do you define patriarchy?
Patriarchy is a system where men are in power and then largely and intentionally exclude women.
Would you not say that because most of the political people in power right now are men, that would not politically use or work as a definition of patriarchy?
No, because they're not excluding women. Women just aren't deciding, or just aren't wanting to do it. Just
Why aren't they
because,
wanting to do it?
be, I mean, I've told you why. It's because men and women aren't interested in the same things.
Why not?
Because they just aren't here. Hold on, that's not the right thing. It's in the VC stage commentary. Here's the abstracts that you like so much. Men like things, women like people in social areas.
This doesn't
So
prove your point right now.
it does. If men are more interested in one area and women are more interested in a different area, then they're not going to go after the same careers.
Tony, I'm asking you why. Why do they want these different things?
I've already told you why. The reason why is because since the start of civilization, if it's always been a certain sort of way, and yes, there are certain. Okay, I need to mute that channel. If there are certain,
Exactly. Exactly.
if it's essentially always been that way, and there are ways that we can, how do I put this? Let's say, like at times, yeah, like yeah, there are ways that we could move away from patriarchy. Like I have no issues with the first and second wave of feminism. I have no complaints, and I think anyone who does is legitimately a misogynist. I'm not even gonna lie to you, but in
What
the
did you
modern,
just say?
I have no issues with first and second wave feminism, and anyone who does, I would argue, is a misogynist.
Okay.
Okay, so there are certain ways that we can move away from the that we were once a patriarchy, and we can move away from that. I agree with that, but in the modern world, no, I do not see that. And so, because men and women are not the same, because we do not like the same things, because we do not have the same interests, the reason why, let's say, Congress is 70% men is because there are more men who take interest in that kind of thing than women. There are more men who
Or
run than women. And
or
because the argument on the opposite end never gets asked, and it doesn't make any, and nobody cares. Why are most teachers women? Why are most nurses women? Why, and there are medical fields where most of the practitioners are women. Why? No one cares. It's
I
because women like
actually
these things more.
have I actually have like an esoteric study about
Okay.
politicians in specific of women versus men and why
Mm-hmm.
it's harder for women to gain positions of power. This one mainly focuses on the differences of the detriment of scandals that has an effect on these people's career. Like if a woman gets into a scandal of like her nudes leaked or something, anything related to some sort of like interpersonal scandal, she gets penalized more for it than the man. It's very common in literally every workplace ever current day.
Um, Well, I'm not concerned about workforces. Right now I'm concerned about politics. So right now, politics. How does a female scandal affect her more than a male scandal?
Right, because we view women as like puritanical angels who shouldn't be having sex or doing anything. And if we do find out that they are, they get penalized more because it seems more taboo. It
Do you
seems
have
as
any?
something like that
What
she's
are some
really not
examples of
supposed to
this?
do. Of purity culture?
No, of a female politician being punished harder than her male politician for
Sure,
something
yeah,
like
I
nudes
can
leaking.
send you the source for this. It all of these are like in the public channel labeled like wage gap. And anybody can look at these. Hang on, I have to scroll through.
And also, if that's an issue and if people know about that, is it possible to just not send nudes? That way you don't ever have to worry about them leaking.
Can you re-say that
Yes, I did.
slowly?
If someone doesn't want their nudes to be leaked because it might possibly affect their life, maybe they shouldn't send nudes.
One more time, but slower.
Don't send nudes. Like I don't know.
If they don't want their nudes to be leaked, they
Don't.
shouldn't send nudes. If
Yeah.
they don't want another person to do a malicious action towards them, they shouldn't do a non-malicious action.
Yeah.
Really?
When you don't want people to do malicious action towards you, you limit the amount of chances they have to do those.
Sure, you can. That can limit the probability. However, that does not put the blame on the
Like
person who sent the nudes.
I don't remember saying it did. I just remember saying don't do it. The person who leaked the nudes and did a malicious action is still wrong. Doesn't change the fact that you sent the nudes and they wouldn't have been able to do that if you didn't send the nudes. Yes or no?
Why, wait, why are you bringing that up in this context? Why do you care more about talking about the person who sent the nudes rather than the person who exposed them?
The person who exposed them is wrong. Can we agree upon that?
Yeah,
Okay,
and I
cool.
find it
Okay.
interesting that you don't focus.
No, because y'all always do this. Answer. So we can agree that the person is wrong. Anyone with half a brain cell and with any sense of decent morality would be able to agree upon that. Yes.
Yes, and I
So
think it's
why do we
also
need to
something that
talk
you
about
should
that?
focus on.
What? No. Why do we need to talk about that? We can both agree, and we can agree that anyone who disagrees has bad morals. We can agree upon that. So why do we need to talk about it? What is there to talk about? The only thing that we can say is anyone who disagrees has bad morals, and the person is bad. But there's what other conversation is there to have with that right there?
I don't know, you brought it up by
You brought
saying
up
the
nudes.
opposite.
You brought up nudes.
You brought up the talking point, talking about how you just shouldn't send nudes if you don't want them exposed. Essentially, just
You
victim
brought up the
blaming
talking
rhetoric.
points of nudes because of politicians and how it hurts female politicians more. You brought up
I'm
nudes.
sorry,
I did not.
I don't remember saying the statement that if you don't want your nudes leaked, you shouldn't send them. My memory might be faulty, but I don't remember saying.
I didn't say that you did. You were talking about nudes and female politicians.
Right.
So what I am saying is, if you don't, going off of that point, are you with me so far?
Yes.
Going off of your point about female politicians and nudes and then getting leaked. Okay, you're with me. Don't send nudes and they don't get leaked. How do you
Even
not
if
see
this
how that
wait, even
relates?
if this were the
How do you
case,
not see how that
even
does that relate? Yes or no? Are they completely unrelated, have nothing to do with each other, and I'm just talking on my ass?
even if this were the
Yes or
case,
no? Yes or
it
no?
would not affect my statistics.
Yes or no?
You're literally going off
Yes
on a left
or
field of
no? Answer the
something that
question.
has nothing to do
Answer
with
the
my
yes or no.
statistics.
Answer the question.
What's the question? That I should agree with a victim blaming rhetoric statement?
How is that victim blaming?
Oh, you did this action, therefore it's like maybe you shouldn't do that if you don't want somebody to do a malicious action towards you. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? Sounds eerily similar to a different talking point, doesn't
If
it?
I go into an area riddled with crime and I'm dressed
Oh my fucking
straight up and down in Gucci bags, waving $100 bills around, that's completely okay. And I get robbed, that's completely it's like I can't say, hey man, maybe you shouldn't have been there. I can't say that to him. I should say you should be able to
Wow, he brought up the
you go wherever you want and do whatever you want, and that's completely fine. I can't bring
not
that
the
up to him.
meme talking point, bro.
Can I bring that up to him? Yes or no?
You can. You're just gonna sound ridiculous and get
How?
laughed at.
How? Then argue the point. Then argue against the point. How is it a bad point? Can we agree that there are bad people in the world and that there are bad people who do bad things? Can we agree upon that?
Yes.
Okay. So knowing that there are bad people who do bad things, What do you do to stop those people from doing bad things to you?
Right. Yeah, you can reduce what's the word? The probability of it happening, but I find it interesting that this is what you focus on when we're
So
talking
you
about
can, so you
victims
agree that
of
you can reduce
abuse.
the probability of a bad thing, of a bad person doing a bad thing to you. You agree upon that. So if the bad
Not
person, if
universally. Wait, no, 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 not
so
universally,
if the bad
no.
person doing a bad
Oh
thing
my fucking
is
god, am
sending
I just
out
like
your nudes
speaking
in a
to a wall?
malicious, so the action is a bad person doing a bad thing by sending out your nudes. You can lower the chance of that happening by not sending nudes. You agree upon that? Yes or no?
Right. And I also agree that the
So
person
then you agree
and
with
I
your quote
also
unquote
agree
victim
that the
blaming
person
rhetoric.
that
Then I'm
should be
glad we're on the same
penalized
page.
in this situation is the one who does the exposing.
I
The
agree. They
person
should
who
also go to
sent it
jail. They should also be
should
tried for the
not have
crimes.
anything to do with it.
They should. Okay, so whenever anybody, any action, so, but we're social creatures, right?
What the fuck does that have to do
But
with
we're
this?
social creatures who see social aspects, right? So when certain actions are taken, then we will respond in turn to those people. Yes or no? So if we see
What do
someone's
you
nude, if we see someone's nudes get leaked, we're gonna think differently about them because we're social creatures. We're just products of our environment, right?
Yes,
We don't get to
yes,
critically think about anything.
you're almost at the point. You're almost at the point. Please, please, yes, exactly. However, the standards for how we view the two genders, men versus women, are different when we're talking about nakedness or sexuality, anything sensual. It's very different. I think you and I can both agree on that, no?
Yes,
Exactly.
because we view men and
So
women differently.
if we pedestalize women's bodies more, try to cover them up more, when they get revealed, it's a bigger shock factor when they are, especially when we have a puritanical type of culture that they're brought up in as well. It's that is what's going to influence people's opinions when they see these pictures. Do you
Sure,
agree?
sure, yes, but the point is, the
Right.
point is, if you don't want your nudes to get leaked, and you know this, and everybody knows this, and it's common
That
knowledge,
doesn't
then don't
dispute my
send your
point.
nudes. I didn't say it did.
Only I don't care. I literally don't
I
care.
never said that it disputed your point. That wasn't my point.
Then why are you using it as a rebuttal to my point? Can you give me a rebuttal then?
The rebuttal is don't let people do bad things to you. Don't put yourself in a position to have people do bad things to you.
Tony, Tony, even if men and women politicians both had their nudes exposed at the same exact
We're not
rate,
going to react to them the same
women,
because men and women are differently, are different.
that
Like what?
literally has nothing to fucking do with this. It's a hypothetical. Oh my god. If both male and female politicians had their nudes leaked at the same rates, it would still have women penalized more because of this social environment
Because
that
we
you
do
just
not
agreed
view
upon that
men and
exists.
women the same. How is that not
Exactly,
related?
which is exactly
There are
why women are
plenty of
penalized
areas.
more.
There are
Tony,
plenty of
stop, you're so
areas.
close to the point.
No, there are
Tony,
plenty of
please.
areas where we view
Oh my
men
god.
more harsh. There are plenty of those. What about those?
Plenty of what?
Areas where we view men just as harsh, if not more harsh than women. What's wrong with those?
What do you mean? What are you, what? What? I'm sorry, this can exist outside of my point as well. Like, this is just, it's such a basic thing to agree on. I'm not even really trying to argue it.
Oh, that's
It's
a great thing because you're
basic.
terrible at arguing. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I'm terrible at arguing. Okay, sure.
115%.
Yeah, the projection's going great for you. No, but
Ah, there we go
again,
with the fucking leftist buzzwords. You love to see it. Just
it's psychology, okay?
mm-hmm.
Um, anyways, okay, so can you concede on the point or agree with me that it makes sense that women are penalized more if the social environment in which their nudes get released are to the point where it's more of a shock factor, and since we do live in a somewhat puritanical culture, especially in relation to female sexuality, that it can penalize women more simply because we just view it as
Okay,
worse or something that's supposed to be more
and condense
covered
it.
up.
Try that again and condense it. Not gonna lie to you.
I'm just going to restate the analogy, and if you can't get it, I don't know how else to explain
Well, in that
this.
case, I'm pretty much over it. I'm done with having a child talk down to me and be condescending. I have had a great discussion, and I hope you have a great
I'm
day, Miss Abby.
condescending.